Hello all, welcome to this class on projection of solids. So let's try to solve this problem. That is a hexagonal prism, 25 mm sides of base and 50 mm axis length, rests on HP on one of its corners of the base such that the two base edges containing the corner on which it rests makes equal inclinations with HP. Draw the projections of the prism when the axis of the prism is inclined to HP at 40 degrees and appears to be inclined to VP at 45 degrees. So here in this problem it's mentioned that the type of solid is a hexagonal prism and it is resting on one of its corners. So they are clearly mentioning it is resting on one of its corners. So let's try to solve this problem. So first thing what you will have to do is draw the XY line. So using a normal line. So first try to draw the XY line and then do the naming part. So let's try to do the naming part here. X and Y and VP, HP, VP, HP. Now let's try to draw the hexagonal prism on the top view first. So using this line and visible line. So they are telling it the sides of base 25 mm. The length of the side is 25 mm. So first just draw a line without giving any dimensions. Then just leave your mouse and then just use your keyboard. 25 tab 0 enter, 25 tab 60 enter, 25 tab 120 enter, 25 tab 180 enter, 25 tab 240 enter, 25 tab 300 enter. So now once you do that, the hexagon gets completed, and they are telling it is resting on one of its corners. So therefore on the extreme right side there has to be a corner. You can just see in this position on the extreme right side where I'm placing the cursor, you can just see there is a corner. So this position is correct. Now let's try to do the naming for it. So let's try to name the top and bottom face of the hexagon. So using this text option, let the size be 5. So let's try to do the naming. A1, A1, and similarly let's try to name this BB1. So let's try to name that as well, BB1, B and B1, and similarly let's try to name this CC1 and this DD1, EE1 and FF1. EE1, FF1. Next, let's try to name the center point. So for that, go to normal line again and just try to draw the diagonal line. So here you can just see, so where from any edge, on any edge, if you just try to place it, you will get this this symbol, so that indicates it is a center point. So let's try to draw this first, and then similarly let's try to draw the two opposite corners, and you get the center. So it's quite common, so it's quite easier. So from there you can easily draw the center. You can just try to trim this, so you get this, and you can just name it here O01, O01. So O01. Now let's try to do draw the projections. So from here, from the 6 corners, let's try to do the projections. So from here again, let's try to do the projections. So now they're telling the axis length is 50. So let's give the axis length as the center line. So give it 50, enter. So now use the visible line. So using visible line, just draw the other lines. So using this alignment indicator, we can try to draw it. So using this alignment indicator, it is drawn clearly here. So now it is very important how to do the naming. So when the observer sees from here, I mean this top edge A and top corner, that is this A and even both will be actually visible. So here let's try to name it A, and the bottom face, that corner, it is A1. And similarly when he sees from here, so B will be visible while F will be hidden, B1 will be visible while F1 will be hidden. So here in the brackets, so if here you name it B, and within the brackets you name F. So similarly here it will be B1. So it is actually not A1. Actually here also it is A1 dash and A dash. So I've just made a mistake. So let me try to correct it again. So let me try to delete that and draw it again here. So that you don't make such mistakes in the exams. So in the front view it is I mean a dash is used actually. So instead of A it is A dash. So similarly here instead of A1 it is A1 dash, and similarly here it is B dash, and in the brackets F dash, and here B1 dash, and in the brackets F1 dash, B1 dash and F1 dash, and here it is O dash, and here it is O1 dash, O1 dash, and similarly here it will be E dash, and in the brackets C dash, and similarly E1 dash, and in the brackets C1 dash, and here it will be D dash, and in the brackets D1 dash, not in the brackets, actually in the bottom. So now let's try to, using move option, let's try to move that. So see that the caps is switched on. So let's try to move it and place it in a correct position for all the points. See that the caps is switched on I mean the move option is the copy is switched off. So let's try to position everything correctly in an appropriate correct position. So let's try to do that. So as you do that, the top view will almost I mean the first stage of the problem will almost get completed. So let's try to proceed with the second stage. So as you do the second stage, try to select this completely and use move option, switch on a copy, and try to select that. So first try to move it on this particular corner, on this edge. So using this any one of the corners, and they're telling the prism is inclined. I mean the axis of the prism is inclined to HP at 40 degrees and appears to be inclined to VP at 45 degrees. So they're telling it is inclined to have HP at 40 degrees. So I mean what you do is just select this completely. I mean this rotate option can be actually used. I mean select this completely, let this be the center of rotation and this be the point to rotate from. See that the copy button is switched off, copy command, and just enter the position angle as 40 degrees. Now even you can try to move it a bit so that it will look a lot better. So using move option, let's try to move it a bit better so that you will get better space for the third stage. So that's the reason why you can move it a bit on the reference line. So that is the reason. So you can move it. See that it is correctly, the corner is correctly resting on the XY line. That is very important. Now let's try to zoom that and try to delete off these. So these, and because again we will have to position it correctly. We'll have to mention that correctly. So you can try to delete off everything there. So let's try to delete them. So once you delete all, so let's try to move these points. So see that the copy is switched on. So now this one is A dash, while this one is B dash and F dash, while this one is O dash, while this one is E dash and C dash, while this one is D dash, and similarly this one is A1 dash, while this one is B1 dash and F1 dash, while this one is O1 dash, while this one is E1 dash and C1 dash, while this one is D1 dash. So now all the, it's drawn. Now let's try to using normal line. So let's try to draw projections. So from A to from A dash to A is here, B dash to B is here, and O dash to O is here, and similarly from E dash to so see that the correct straight lines are actually drawn. So if there is any extra projection here sometimes, so let's try to zoom it and try to trim that. So let's try to zoom it further and try to draw the projections. So from D dash, so now all the projections are drawn. So similarly, let's try to, so before drawing onto the bottom face, let's try to name it correctly. Do the namings first. So A dash to A. So A is here and B dash to B is here and O is here, and C is, so E and C are here. Actually you can just see here the projection to C is not drawn. You can use this extend to next option. So here let's try to extend this so that you will get that. So C is here, so A B C, and D is here, D is here, and A B C D is here, and E is here, and even for F it's not drawn. So again using this extend to next option you can draw that, and F dash to F will be here. So you can just see now all the 6 points have been named, but see that it's positioned correctly using the move option. Let's try to do that. So this is A, this is B, this is C, this is D, this is E, this is F, and this is O. So now let's try to draw the projection similarly for the from the bottom face. So now using normal line, so A1 dash to A1, and similarly B1 dash to B1 and O1 dash to O1, and similarly E1 dash to E1, and also from C1 dash. So let's try to use that same option, and from D1 dash, so now we have just drawn all the, so let's try to move these Okay, now let's try to name this position, name this so a1 dash to a, so this one will actually be a1 and this one will be b1, this one will be c1, so this will be d1, so this will be e1 and this will be f1, while this will be o1. So using move option, let's try to position that correctly. So a1, b1, c1, d1, e1 and f1. So we have positioned everything correctly. So now it's time to draw the visible edges and hidden edge. I mean hidden edges. So we will have to identify that and draw it. So you can just see when the observer sees from here, from the top, wherever I place the cursor. When he sees from here, that means all this A dash, B dash, C dash, D dash, E dash, and F dash. So that face will actually be completely visible. That face is nothing but A, B, C, D, E, F here. So that one will have to be drawn using a visible line. So that one will have to be joined using visible line. So go to line, visible line, just join it using a visible line here. So A to B, B to C, C to D, D to E, E to F, and F to A. So next thing what you will have to do is, just like every problem, the boundaries will actually be made visible. So here the outermost boundary here is, so you can just see here the E1. So E1 is from here. So you can just, let's try to make that the outermost boundary here. Similarly from there back to uh, D1 and then back to here and then here. So that will actually be made visible. Next you will have to see which one have to be made hidden. So you can just see the endmost point here is A dash. So the lines that is coming from there, that is A dash to B dash and F dash, and to A dash. A1, actually A1 dash is the endmost point. So the lines that is coming from that A1 dash, so B1 dash, F1 dash and A dash, so that one will actually be made hidden. So go to line hidden, so increase the thickness, so a1 dash to, you can just make this a1 dash to b1 dash and a1 dash to f1 dash. So that one will actually be made because, so this is the endmost point and the lines that is coming from this a1 dash to b1 dash and f1 dash, as well as a1 dash to a dash. So a1 dash to a dash should also be made hidden. So what we can do is go to trim option, so go to trim option and just make that hidden. So next thing what we'll have to do is almost everything is fine. Now see, O2 O1 dash can actually be made center line, but actually what happens is, you can just see the endmost point here is D dash. So that means D dash to A dash or D dash to D1 dash. So that one will actually be made uh, visible actually. So D dash to D1 dash. So from here is D dash. So D dash to D1 dash must actually be made visible. So this one from here to here will actually be made visible. So when visible coincides with this hidden, this one will become visible. So similarly, even if a center line had been drawn, if a visible line is drawn, the visible line is what will prevail. So no need to redraw the center line on it. So this will be fine. So this completes the second stage of the problem as well. So now let's proceed on to the third stage. In the third stage, what they are telling is, so they are clearly mentioning it. Draw the projections of the prism when the axis of the prism is inclined to HP at 40 degrees and appears to be inclined to VP at 45 degrees. So at 45 degrees is what they are telling. So now let's try to draw that. So let's try to draw using a normal line. So let's try to draw a line like this. So I mean you can just so now let's try to measure the angle between that. So let's try to make it 45 degrees. So this axis, so this is the axis actually. So that axis has to be inclined. That axis has to be inclined to that VP at 45 degrees. So now what we'll do is we'll try to select this completely. So when it is selected, you can just see not all the lines are selected. Some of the lines are selected and some of it are not selected. So what you can do is you can just use the split option. So select some of the lines. So we can just try to split some of the lines, especially the center lines and all. So here, let me try to split this. I mean, few things may not be required, but see that at least the center lines they are actually selected because the other projections may not be very important, but the center lines may be very important. So that I think that is okay. You can try to select now. Almost all the main ones have been selected. So now we're using move. See that the copy is switched on. So let's try to select at this corner exactly wherever I'm placing the cursor. So just drag it and place it here. And now let's try to use the rotate option. See that the copy is switched off. And just wherever you picked from that one, let that be the center of rotation. And let the other corner be the point to rotate from. So just rotate like this. You can just see it is a bit down. So you can switch off the copy and drag it a bit top, such that there is no any issue there. So now let's try to zoom that and try to delete off these points. So see that these points are deleted, so that we can mention it again. So see that all these points are deleted. Okay, now let's try to move those points. So see that a copy is switched on. So this is A, well this is B, well this is C, well this is D, well this is E, well this is F, well this is O, well this is A1, B1, C1, so this is D1, E1, F1 and O1. So now we can just see all these points have been named. So let's try to draw the projections first. So see that it is correctly zoomed. So whichever the required ones, let's try to zoom that alone. So not the entire one may be required. So now let's try to draw the projections. So you can just, let's try to draw projections from here. E1 to E1 dash. E1 dash is here. And B1 to B1 dash. And C1 to so you can just see this is not a straight line. So sometimes when you're not getting a straight line, it's also fine if you can make it 90 degrees and then draw it. Enter 90 degrees, sometimes you will get it correctly. So now that projection is fine. So next is D1 dash 2. So now let's try to trim this. So wherever if you have made some extra projections, let's try to trim that. So now from E1 to E1 dash and F1 to F1 dash, and similarly O1 dash to O1 to O1 dash. So now let's try to trim that. So we have just drawn that. So now what we'll have to do is we'll just have to do the naming. So you can just see here. So this is E1 and this one will be E1 dash. E1 dash B1 and here is B1 dash. So A1 dash and B1 dash is done, and next here is C1. So C1 dash, here is D1 dash, and here is E1 dash, and here is F1 dash, and here is O1 dash. So now all the points have been named: A1, B1, C1, D1, E1, and F1. So now you can just see this is A1, B1, and C1, D1, E1, and F1. Now similarly, let's try to draw projections from here. So A, so from A it's drawn, and similarly from B, so B to B is also drawn, and then from C to C is also drawn, and then from D to D, D to D is also drawn, and then from E to E, and finally from F to F, and finally from O to O. Now let's try to do the namings. So this is A, so this is actually A dash, while this is B dash, while this is C dash, while this is D dash, while this is E dash, while this is F dash. While this is O dash. So see that all the points are positioned correctly: A, B, C, D, E, and F. So this is also quite similar. Now we'll have to identify which one to be made visible and which one to be made hidden. So when the observer sees from here, that is wherever I've placed the cursor of my mouse, so you can just see this complete phase, that is A1, B1, C1, D1, E1, and F1. So the corresponding one in the front view will be this A1 dash, B1 dash, C1 dash, E1 dash, and F1 dash. So let's try to make that visible. So you will have to identify which one is A1. So this one is A1. So this one is A1. So see that you identify that correctly, because it could be a bit confusing. So as there are many lines, so now I've just drawn that. Next thing what you'll have to do is draw the boundaries. So that is very important. So now D1 dash to D dash, from there to C dash, from there to B dash, and from there to A dash. I think you can just draw to B1 dash here. So now let's try to do this. So let this be a reference frame as we usually do it. So if a line that is coming within this reference frame, so that one will be made hidden, and a line that is coming outside that will actually be made visible. So let's try to position these points also correctly, so that there is no any confusions. So now let's try to do that. So E1 dash to E dash, D1 dash to D dash is done. So similarly, next one that has to be done is so here it could be quite a bit confusing. So here let's try to draw that E1 dash to E dash. So that's done, and then from there actually let's try to draw this, and then it is from. So we'll have to identify which one is the hidden one. We can just see here the endmost point is actually F. So the lines coming from F, F to E, F to A, that one will actually be made hidden. So F to E and F to A. So F to E and F to A, that one will actually be made hidden. So F to E, so go to hidden. So increase its thickness to 0.5. So F dash to E dash and F dash to A dash, that one is actually be made hidden. Next thing that you will have to do with this, you'll have to identify correctly. So you can just see when F dash to E dash and F dash to E dash, so that is clearly hidden. And so we'll have to join these points. Now A1 dash to A dash has to be joined, but that comes within this reference frame. So let's try to join that using a visible line, I mean hidden line. And similarly F1 dash to F dash, that also comes within this reference frame, so that also will be drawn using a hidden line only. So I think almost everything is done here. So the final one is O1 dash to O dash. So using a center line, if you try to draw that, the problem gets completed. So I think the problem is almost completed. We have just drawn everything. So once you can just check it out. So I think the problem is fine. So finally I think B1 dash to B dash, I think that one edge is pending. So B1 dash to B dash. So it is, let's try to draw that B1, okay, B1 dash to B1 dash is already drawn. So A1 dash to A dash. So I think the problem is completed. So this is how the problem looks. So thank you.